right, back at it. Another episode. Athlete Builder. Jim and Lucas were running the show. I'm in the library. Lucas is up in Fort Wayne, but now we're out west. Well, Nick is. Nick Best is out west in beautiful Las Vegas. So another pro athlete, also a coach in and of himself. He's a little older than I am, but lived in almost five, not 5 decades, but 4+ decades.
No, it's over 5 decades.
5 decades
started in the 80s.
Dang. Moving weight. Late 90s, winning national level powerlifting championships. His son turns to him and says, Dad, why don't you try this strongman thing? If I read the story correctly. And goes into strongman. Now, being strong is helpful in doing strongman, but a lot of times those folks don't always translate. And Nick rocketed to the pro level, been that over a dozen years, competing at the highest level. What I loved about when I first started watching Nick, other than on strongman shows, was on the History Channel a couple years back, doing that documentary with Eddie Hall, Brian Shaw, and Robert Obrist. And so he's a coach. So he's super smart, just not just good looking and strong, right? So we're gonna get into it today and ask Nick some questions. How to get better. So Nick, man, thanks for being on the show.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks for having me on, Jim. Lucas, I appreciate it. It's
sure.
A lot of fun. I love doing stuff like this.
Shout out 𝗀𝗃𝗁𝗀𝗀. He hooked us up. He's quite the networker and in your same class, right? So Masters Strongman and competing. And he hasn't won Masters. I know he wants to. You wrote it down here that you plan to. So that'll be fun to
I've won
fun
the
to
40.
watch.
I've won the Masters 40. And so now I want to win the Masters 50.
Sure. Well, why wouldn't you? So the transition, powerlifting, squat, bench, deadlift to strongman, and just take us through like the thought process and moving over that thing. It's not horizontal press; it's vertical press now. It's a lot of there's movements. You have to be more athletic,
correct?
Not just static strength, right? So talk about why and how that happens.
Well,
for you.
I was always a good athlete. I played football. I did track. I threw javelin disc in college, and then shot and disc in high school. I did a little baseball in high school. Played football all through high school and all through college. Rollerbladed everywhere in Northern California, so I skated all the time. So I was very athletic. And then I got into powerlifting and was the first person to squat over 800 drug tested in California, first person to total over 2,000. This was 1996, drug tested in California back in the day. And so I was pretty darn strong. And 2003, I go to Mark Phillippe's contest and watch it. And I'm watching like Grant Higa and Carl Gillingham and John Anderson and Phil Pfister compete at this contest that was at UNLV. And I was like, wow, this looks fun. And it did. It looked fun because I like being a good athlete as well. I mean, if the strength's not functional, what good is it? If you can't do something with the strength, it's useless.
Sure.
I mean, it's like wearing a double ply squat suit. Hey, great, you just squatted 1,200 pounds. But what can you do without it? Can you squat over 700 without the suit? Can you do things? I'm this strong walking down the street every day, so if I want to sprint, I want to run, I want to do something, I'll have the ability to be strong in that area. It's not that sport specific, if that makes sense.
Yep.
So it was a natural athlete, and I just took to it like a duck to water. I mean, I just started doing the events, and all of a sudden doing pretty good, and 4 contests later, inside of like 15 months, I got my pro card I went to 𝗀𝗃𝗁𝗀𝗀 contest actually in 2005 and missed turning pro by a point. And the two of us that won the show beat all the pros that were in the show, because the pros used to compete in with the amateurs at that time. Which was pretty funny. And I missed it by half a point. He's like, you need to go do Vans contest in another month. You just need more experience. I'm like, okay. So I went and did Vans contest, and I won the contest and turned pro. And then, a year later, it's crazy. A year later, I go to 𝗣𝗀𝗱𝗃𝗀𝗀 Worlds, and the first event's the Farmer's Walk, and I break the world record in the Farmer's Walk. It was nuts. You know, so it's
Insane.
three contests as an amateur, fourth one I turned pro, three contests as a pro, fourth one I go to Worlds, the 𝗣𝗀𝗱𝗀𝗀 Worlds, and break a world record and make the top 10 in the first international contest that I did. So it was a lot of fun. It was a massive learning curve. I will say that.
You know,
Learned a lot really fast.
Well, he's pretty humbled here too. He talks about, yeah, I was a pro, I did this. He still has records that are standing to this day. Some of these carries, you know, and
Yeah.
I'm looking at where he ranks or the records that he has or set. It looks like you're good at suffering. It's not necessarily
Yes.
just the static strength, but you're good at being in pain for longer than everybody else on these carries
Yeah.
and holds. And I'm like, shit, that's not like a 6 or 12 or 30-second squat. This is
Mm.
going minutes of
Yeah.
suffering at a max effort level where nervous system and brain is saying, stop, shut down, I hate you, go fuck yourself, you know? And next thing you know,
Correct.
Nick is he's still going.
Yeah. And some of that's you have to train your nervous system. Most people
Yes.
don't train the nervous system.
Mm.
They'll do a lot of the heavy work and training, but they don't specifically, have a go where they train their nervous system. Like, so I'll have a week where I do speed stuff. I'll have a week where I lift heavy, and then I'll have a week where I do things that are just like ungodly heavy, but partial movements that train my nervous system.
Yep.
So like one week I'll pull 500 for reps from the ground on a deadlift. The next week I'll pull just heavy regular deadlift. And the week after that, I'll do block pulls. But the block pulls, when I was like really going after them, were like 1,100 pounds for, 8 to 10 reps. Your CNS is fried after that. Fried.
Yes.
And that's the beginning of the workout. That was the first thing I would do. And then you get through the whole workout that way. Your CNS starts learning how to function when it doesn't want to function.
Mm.
So it's something you don't really see a lot of people do.
I wonder how many Olympic lifters do stuff like that, because I don't see a lot of Olympic lifting programming that does. I mean, you do lots of work from the blocks and heavy pulls and stuff like that, but I'm thinking, when does an Olympic lifter ever just do partial to the weight that you're talking about?
Right. But
You know.
the Olympic lifters don't really. The Olympic lifters are speed and explosion and technique and form. They're what's the longest they're doing a lift? 10 seconds?
Right.
When they get it up there and they're just holding lockout, waiting to get the down. I mean, they come up, they either do the snatch and catch it and then come up out of the hole and then stand there. So that's what, 3 to 4 seconds? Or they do the clean and jerk, and sometimes, they get it in the rack, they sit there and then they jerk it up over their head, then they hold it. But it's not like they're not doing something that's going to extend out 10, 20, 30, 40 seconds, 50 seconds, and you have to keep going. I would equate it to like running a 400. If you ever go out and run a 400-meter sprint, the monkey jumps on your back at about 300 yards or 300 meters, and it's the last 100 meters is all will, and making your muscles move when they don't want to move because they just want you to stop. So it's that type of mentality that you're putting in. It's like, okay, we can keep going. We're going to be okay. We're not going to die from this. It just doesn't feel good. And so embrace the suck, get it done, and just have the right mentality for it. And train that way. You have to train that way.
Yeah, I feel like there could be some good crossover with that in Olympic lifting, because that's primarily what I do. So I'm, it gets my brain spinning a little bit. How much could you benefit from doing that when you're only lifting the snatch and clean and jerk in a very quick amount of time? But you're not, you're training the central nervous system, not not necessarily like you said earlier. That's the end goal, is to train the system. So they should be able to transfer to any
sport that you want to apply it to. Yeah, and it's stuff like that a lot of the things that you do in strongman are applicable to other sports and other things. Like carry and drags are great for like MMA. Truck pulls are great for MMA because your feet and your hands got to work at the same time. And instead of just going at like the 30, 40% that the guys are fighting at, You have to go at 100% to pull a truck, and you have to go 100% effort for a minute to a minute and a half. There is no going half-assed through it. You have to go. Well, if you get used to training that way, you can turn it on and turn it, especially recovering from that. You can turn it on and turn it off when you're rolling with somebody. You can, but instead of being able to go hard for like 20 seconds, you can go hard for 40 seconds and then slow it down a little bit, recover, and keep right on going. And it gives an advantage to people when they learn how to train that way.
Do you ever see athletes that do like the pin pulls and this? What do you think about that?
Well, like the static stuff where they pull it, hit the pin, and then just try to hold on to it. Yeah, Travis does. 𝗬𝗏𝗀𝗀 does some of that stuff.
Okay.
And it has its place, because if you put that right at your weak spot and then you pull into it as hard as you can for a few seconds, it's gonna help you work through the weak spot. It's gonna stabilize everything through that area.
Kind of want to just put some weight on a bar, put it on blocks above my knee, and just see how much I can clean deadlift, in those positions, and kind of go from there.
Pulling from just above your knee is where you want to go anyway. From below the knee, you're not going to get heavy enough to really get the benefit from it. And most people won't understand your traps will get so much stronger. Your upper back will just get so strong from doing the partials with 300 pounds more than what you can deadlift from the floor. When you go to pull from the floor, your traps are actually stronger at the position from the floor.
Yeah.
Most people don't get that. It'll actually help your pull off the floor. And people, it's like, okay, I pulled 843 at 48 years old. I mean, what do I know?
Right. I had this one coach. He runs Force Barbell here in Indy. He did, and he's a thrower at Purdue, and a lot of pulls and some snatches, but a lot of heavy pulls. And we're talking deadlift. And he says, "Yeah, Jim, I was basically knocked right off the floor, like a low 5 deadlifter, but above the knee, he goes, I would pull about mid 8s." I'm like, okay. And I said, "So talk to me about that." He goes, "Well, most of my work is done from that mini squat position. You're never that low to the ground. So I needed to be strong off the floor, sure, but my power position above the knee was optimal. So we trained that a lot more, and it translated really, really well to his shot put." And I'm like, oh man. So doing those partials was the first time that was introduced to me, and I'm like, huh, let's look into that a little bit. Yeah. One of the questions though I had about, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. Okay. Well, partials, I saw a female thrower doing box squats the other day. And I bit my tongue. I just stayed out of it. But I saw her doing that, and it was like, okay, these are great, but don't do them that way. Have the weights hit the box, not your spine hit the box. And even though the box was padded, all that weight was still hitting right on her spine. I think her strength coach needs to find another job. If he was training my daughter, he would not be training my daughter anymore, because you can do the same thing in a far safer way that'll be far better for her lower back at the end of the day. I mean, box squats, you should just touch the platform. You never put all the weight on your spine. Never. It's the quickest way to have a super short career. And you watch stuff like that, and it's like there's a different way to attack things that don't necessarily, you can get the same partial movement out of it, but have it in a much safer way for the athlete.
Gotcha.
Okay, sorry.
It's all right. No, that's good. That's good, because I'm guilty of having box squatted and the weight's still loaded. Like you watch an old WestSide video, and that's how they're doing it. I'm like, well, shit. So I love the different perspective. The thing about, you mentioned the nervous system. Like everything else, there's still a progression. You don't go from 0 to 100. So if you're a 500 deadlifter, you don't load 1100 on the bar like you do.
No.
And it's not like you go from 10 seconds to 40 right away, but you can still progressively overload, heal up, and then go again, weeks later or whatever. Talk about how you would progress someone, a regular high school athlete, say they're a football or basketball player and you want to stress their nervous system a little bit, talk about a couple different ways where you would do that and how you would progress them over maybe a semester broadly.
Well, yeah. So over a semester, you're going to come in, they're going to do their deadlifts. You see where they're kind of at. You go in, you put weight on the bar that's, start at about 50 pounds over what they can deadlift, and then move it up to where they're going to struggle to get probably, 5 to 10 reps with it. And it should be somewhere between 50 and 100 pounds. And then what you're going to want to do is keep increasing that to where it gets to maybe 150 to 200 pounds, but you move it up because you only want them doing it like every other week or every third week. Because you don't want to fry that system over and over again. You want to fry it, let it heal all the way, and then come back to it. So like every third week, maybe add 10, 20 pounds till they can't get at least 5 reps with it. And that's going to be their work weight, and they'll stay working at that weight until they can start getting up to 10 reps. Once they hit 10 reps, progress another 10 to 20 pounds on it every time they do it. So they might do it, 6 to 8 times in a semester, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Before we even got started on the show, you're talking about healing and healing the nervous system, and you're talking about how it's just it's real current. Mike Israetel was on with Dave Tate's Table Talk podcast. I had to listen to it. I think it's episode 355, and they're talking about injuries and healing and tissue, and like any person that competes. And anything, typically there's an injury coming at some point. And if you compete for a long time, there's lots of injuries. And if you're at the highest level, some of those can be pretty severe and or career ending, right? So talk about the your thoughts on that piece, because you wanted to evolve it to this next level. So provide some context, and then your thoughts after that.
So Dr. Mike and Dave Tate were talking about recovering from tendon tears and reattachments and stuff like that. And forgot the name of the female doctor that was there, and forgive me because she's brilliant. They were talking about why it takes so much longer. They were talking about a muscle tear and how it'll heal in a couple months, and yet how tendon tears will usually start really getting to where you can get after things with them at about 6 to 8 months. And I'm just like, yes, you're right there. You're right on it. And they still didn't get it. Your training's that way too. And that's what no one gets. In strength and in power and in explosive sports, the tendon recovery is more important than the muscle recovery. And nobody gets that, because that's what guys get stronger faster than the connective tissue can hold it. And that's when they get injured all the time. I've seen so many guys' careers end early because they got strong just too fast. That's why they don't last. You get strong at a pace that your connective tissue can keep up with it. You're gonna get there, you're gonna keep there, and you're gonna stay there for a long time. And so that difference, and the formula was right there in front of them. If it takes 6 months for the tendon to heal because of blood flow and everything else, where it just goes slower, and it takes 2 months for the muscle to heal, that carries over. If it takes 2 days for the muscle to heal, it takes 6 to 8 days for the tendons to heal after a really hard, strenuous workout. And that's what nobody gets. If you take that healing process and put it with some of the conjugate method, you're going to kill it. Except for the conjugate method, where he did a heavy lift one part of the week and a speed lift the second part of the week. Spread that out. You do a heavy week and then you do a light week, and you double the rest. That is probably one of the best ways to train, and you just alternate exercises and change things around. Gotcha. I didn't even know I was training conjugate till my training partner told me I was training. Do you read Westside? I'm like, no, never. And then it turns out a lot of the stuff I was doing matched right with what he was doing. And I took that from a combination of what I learned from Bull Stewart, what I learned from Ed Cohen, and what I learned from Dorian Yates, in his training method. Because he does like 1 to 2 just crazy sets.
Carry that forward to youth sports and high school sports, where the connective tissue, let's say it's volleyball, a lot of jumps, right? They're trying to jump as high as they can, and a lot of landings, and the muscles are getting fatigued, and there's probably an imbalance from their posterior and anterior chain. But talk about the connective tissue and the need for that to heal. Combine that with the volume of youth sports and injury rate.
Well, I mean, really, we need to look at the end of the day, I mean, we need to look at backing. We can keep a long season, but we just need to maybe slow down how many times we compete. So if they're competing 3 or 4 days a week, if the sporting organizations drop that down to 2, you would cut your injuries probably by 2/3.
Sure.
They're just going too much. And at some point, it becomes too much. So like a training program, I would put whatever their last competition, whatever their last lifting session or volleyball match is for that week, the next day, maybe rest, and then the day after that, they can do like their whole lower body, and then take another day off, and then practice and do their stuff, and then they take another day and do their whole upper body, and then just twice a week is plenty during the season for anybody. Maybe even one, because you're just trying to maintain the strength through the season. You build in the off, which how many people have an off season anymore?
Not a lot.
My daughter plays travel lacrosse. There is no like off season, so we make sure she rests and stuff like that. So, and she's killing it. She's going to go play Division I lacrosse next year.
That's awesome.
At Austin P.
We're talking about, seasons lasting so long and having multiple seasons, especially like volleyball, basketball, all those sports that have, the AAU tournaments and AAU leagues, and you got football with their 7-on-7. The school I'm at right now, we're right in the middle of our testing week. We're testing our strength movements, and I'm talking to our football coach. We got a kid that's, seems to be, he's showing some regression, and it's, I'm talking to him about it, and the kid's training at the school. He's doing track. He's doing sport-specific training, your skills training after weightlifting, after track, and then he's doing more weights. And this is every freaking day. And so we're talking to him like, I tell him, I was like, I can't, whenever I got all these other kids that are doing really, really well, when everybody's getting better, and they train, they either just work out at school, and that's what they do, or they work out at school and go to track, and they're healthy and they're fine. It's, when I tell him, I was like, there's not a lot I can actually do to help him other than, taking care of load, taking care of, his workouts in that form. But at the end of the day, he's not going to progress anymore until he starts. Overtraining. Right, he's overtraining. He's not recovering.
He's burning up all his muscle before it even gets a chance to grow or heal.
Right.
You have to have healing time.
And, you're talking about like tissues, connective tissues taking longer to heal. That is something a high school kid isn't ever going to think. And it's probably not something that a club team or is probably going to think either. So I got this kid that's training 4 times a day, 5-6 days a week. He's done. There's nothing I can do to help him other than give him this information, give the coach this information, and what he does with it, what the kid does is going to be up to him. But I see a lot of that, especially where I'm at, because the clubs are, they're not going to have clubs.
They're running puppy mills for kids. They just push them till you find. It's kind of like the old Bulgarian lifters. They would just run all these guys through the worst, most brutal, strenuous training, and the ones that survived got to stay. It wasn't the training methods were good. It's just they would find all the genetic freaks that could actually heal from it, and so they'd find all the Wolverines and say, "Okay, go." It's all the people that could handle it genetically.
And those guys were outstanding. To their credit, the ones that survived, and they won a ton. Yeah. But by 24, 25, 26 years old, they were already retired because they couldn't handle it. Already done. Yeah,
they're done. I mean, I did my first World's Strongest Man at 41. And I did 10 of them. There's only, this year, I think, if if Luke competes this year, which he should, it'll be his 10th. So that'll be 8 of us that have done 10 World's Strongest Mans, competed in them.
So when did you feel your strongest? I know we're kind of going off track here, but like when did you
My
feel your
strongest
strongest?
year to date was probably 48, but I was right there at 50. And then I kind of like did something a little to my hip and it kind of threw me off a little bit. Then we did the TV show and I just trained for the TV show when we did the TV show. I was like, no, I'm not going to worry about worlds, not going to worry about qualifying. I'm training for the TV show because I knew that would be there forever.
Yeah.
You know, and I was just going to put everything I had into that because that would speak volumes for, you know, my mentality and how I went after things.
Well, I watched every episode. A lot of guys, my boys watched it. My wife watched it. You know, her daughter because she likes to lift, and you know, it's not like you were just there with some other strongmen. Like you're there with the top guys, and they're
the all-time world record holder in the deadlift, and then 4 times world's strongest man. Yeah,
yeah. So they're good, and you know, Brian. You know, I don't. How much do you know somebody from a TV show? Zero, right? And it seems Brian seems he likes also to be a student of the sport and study it, and you seem to be you seem to be the same way. You know, like I like the fact that it was started like in a circus and people are picking up, you know, crazy things or people, you know, the sear dumbbell and all that. How much fun was the learning piece when you're going to these different historical sites? You know, talk about that and just the history of just picking up, you know, heavy stuff like the Todd family with Rogue and what they're doing with those documentaries. Like, what a gift to put that information out and talk about how the world has evolved with their strength and you know just the historical components to it, because it's just cool picking up heavy things.
Oh, it's a blast. I mean, we had so much fun doing it, and then you get to learn about it. Like, which you guys almost nobody knew that we filmed a pilot in July of that, or was it June? No, June of that year, on 𝗀𝗃𝗀𝗀, and because they didn't use the same type of camera as we did on the TV show, they put a couple of clips of it in the beginning opening credits where we're all dragging this huge anchor. But that was like the only thing you really saw from it. But it was like a whole episode on 𝗀𝗃𝗀𝗀. And he was the world's biggest non-pathological giant. He had stopped growing. But he was 7'8" and he was like 534 pounds when he died. He was just a giant man. I mean, his hands would literally be like this off of mine. I got a t-shirt with his handprint on it that like I'll put back up on my garage here pretty soon because I just moved and stuff. But his hand is like gigantic. There's a statue of him at his like museum, and he's literally a foot taller than Brian.
Wow!
And like the statue makes him look
and 100 pounds
like
more.
Small. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was amazing. He's like, yeah, he would carry his water from a creek up the hill every day, and it's like 200 yards uphill, and it's a serious uphill thing. And it turns out he was carrying about 280 pounds in that barrel of water up the hill every day. Just just strolling up the hill. You're just like, you know, that's not light.
How strong could that guy be?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then we figured out how he picked up the 900-pound anchor, because there was a rumor where he picked up a 2,800-pound anchor. We don't think he picked it up. We think he dragged it. But he did pick up a 900-pound anchor, and he lifted that higher than anyone else. He got it up to chest height.
Wow.
Well, if you put the blade of the anchor on your shoulder blade and grab the center of the anchor, you can pick it up, and it ends up on your blade and stuff like that. Well, he was carrying that, you know, down the dock, and some French guys were giving him a hard time, and he was like carrying it, showing off, and he went to throw it, and it missed and landed on him, and it hobbled him. You know, I think he was 37 or 38 when this happened, and it hobbled him, and that's when he died in bed from pneumonia. But I mean, he just lifted that anchor like it was nothing.
Man.
But the 2,800-pound anchor, we figured out how to drag it, so that was what we did. We dragged it. There's no way anyone was lifting that.
How about a venue? historical venue to pick up weight or stones or whatever, and then
Hmm.
um, some historical lifts and events that you gravitate towards. Like, I really want to do that. I like that. I like being at this place, picking up these things. Which of those are some of your favorites?
Well, the ones in Scotland were amazing. Getting to do the Dinny Stones on the Petrarch Bridge was like, that was
Historical,
cool. That
right?
was really cool. I was injured, so I just did the best I could. I want to go do those again because I want to go do them when I'm not hurt. I
Right.
We did the Thomas Topham lift where he did the barrel lift, and Brian and I both went up over 2,000 pounds. And it was more like a yoke lift because the bar was like really thick, and
Right.
basically it was a yoke
Squat underneath
pick.
it.
Yeah, and we both did 2,000, and something in my upper back just went squish, and I was done. And then Brian went up and did 27 more pounds, and he won. But I only had 7 days to heal up and go do the stones. So
Hmm.
I want to go do those stones fresh.
Well, if you're in Indiana, I
Mhm.
have the Hoosier Stones. It's a
Oh,
Hoosier
sweet.
state, and
Yeah.
so like I was watching all these documentaries. I'm like, well, I know Ohio has stones, and I think New
Mhm.
Hampshire and a couple other Midwest states, and you'll read about them. I can't remember the guy's name. Chad Clark knows this guy. He wrote a book about
Mhm.
all the different stones in Europe, and I'm reading about it. I'm like, well, I'm looking around. Who has the Hoosier Stones? Well, no one did. So then I decided, well, I'm in charge, and I harvest these 5 different stones, and they're all different weights and have different meanings. And so if you're ever nearby, come on by and pick them up. Uh,
Oh, heck yeah.
should be fun.
Oh, yeah, that's always fun. I'm kind of
The
excited because when I come back from Norway this year, I think we're going to land in Iceland and stay there a couple days because you can do that with a layover in Iceland on a plane flight. And we're going to go see Thor, and then we're probably going to go to the 𝗀𝗱𝗃𝗀𝗀 and
right,
go do the actual 𝗀𝗱𝗃𝗀𝗀 there.
carry around the
Which,
pen.
yeah, I,
Yeah.
I, I really want to do that too. That'd be a lot of fun.
You watch from those old videos, those old strongest man, world's strongest man, and Magnus is carrying that thing down this hill, and like
Mhm.
he wasn't that, relatively speaking, that big. He's pretty lean,
No,
and
yeah,
he picks it up and he just carries it like, hey, no big deal, no big deal. I'm like, shit. And it's like, right? Yeah. So, and it's also that whole country has something in the water. Like genetically, they just keep breeding.
sulfur.
Right. And they just birth out these strong, strong people. You'll see even the CrossFit world. They'll have people from Iceland that
Oh yeah.
score well in the CrossFit world.
Mhm.
Talk about the food on the show. Well, I guess it's some fun meals, but also there's
Oh,
still a volume of food that you guys got to shovel in. And if you watch any of Brian's or Eddie's or even Robert's videos, like
mhm.
it's not a 2,000 calorie diet day.
Oh no, no, no,
No,
no. I
it's a big
mean,
deal. Talk about
I
that.
yeah, they would tease me all the time because I mean, I still eat a lot of food. Don't get me wrong.
Right.
I was eating like 6 to 8,000 calories a day, but not like those guys. I mean,
Mm,
they would go and they would order like two ribeyes, two two
mm,
ribeyes, and then baked potatoes and stuff like that for their first meal. When we were at lunch, and then they would have to have another two ribeyes like 2 hours later, and everything stopped when it was time to eat. Everything stopped. The first episode, they kept trying to push us and push us and push us, and we're like, we need to eat, we need to eat, and then like there came to a point where Eddie got a little hypoglycemic, and he was like, I need to eat like right now. I'm starving. I need to eat. And from that point on, they didn't mess with us too much. Plus, Brian set him straight on that really fast. So when it was time to eat, we got to go eat. So
got to
that
eat.
was,
I
but they
was
would eat and eat and eat. It was crazy.
That's
Probably
crazy.
still there eating over 10 to 12,000 calories a day.
I struggled to get 3,500 calories in when I was doing bodybuilding, and
Mm-hmm.
it wrecked me. Like I didn't meat sweats when you sweating when you're like I didn't know that was a thing,
It's a
and like
thing.
I've heard people joke about it and talk about it. I'm like, yeah, whatever. So yeah, man, it is a grind to just shovel in that much food. I'm a tiny guy, so I'm 5'7", so
So
it
chicken
doesn't.
stock, chicken stock's going to help with your digestion. So you can get the organic chicken stock at Costco. And then if you can find the international Coca-Cola where it's made with sugar,
Yeah.
if you drink
Okay.
one or two of those when you're going to eat a whole bunch of red meat, it's going to help you digest it.
That's genius.
Really?
That's genius.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because do an experiment. Get one of those Cokes, put it in
Yeah.
a glass, and drop a piece of meat in it and see how long it lasts. It'll break
Oh,
it
wow.
down pretty fast.
Okay. Chicken stock and real Coke.
I just wrote that down.
I'm writing this down. All right. A little deeper question here. So, I understand wanting to do things. You see that it looks cool. Like, I was not that athletic and was not training much at all most of my life. And then I started getting healthier, and a couple guys in my gym were like, "Well, let's squat, bench, deadlift." I'm like, "Cool." Then we started doing some farmers carries. I'm like, "Well, that's neat." So I didn't really start lifting until I'm like 38, 40 years old, and I lift all the way to 40, 45, 46. And for me, I got stronger, got a lot heavier, but got a lot stronger, and I was happy with what I was doing. I was content with my effort and everything I'm putting into me. So to hit my numbers, and I had my whys. You decided I'm not going to do powerlifting. I'm going to do strongman. I want to do that. It looks fun. But now we're in our 50s, and you coach people. You're online. You're making an impact there. You wrote down, I want to show that people can do these things when they're older.
Correct.
What's the why? Not just for today or a week, like, because you have a drive to keep putting in all that food, doing all the recovery, doing all the lifting, doing all the mobility work, because ankles and everything else hurts, especially when you're not 26 anymore. Why or how, or what's the psyche and makeup that makes you so driven for what you're doing?
Well, one, I enjoy it. I like it. I love it. And then I'm tired of society telling people that once you reach a certain age, you're useless. You should just retire. You should just sit back and take it easy and not do anything anymore. I want to be able to do the stuff I could do at 20, at 80. Because that's going to make my quality of life better. Will I be in pain? Yeah, but do I care? No. Will I still be able to climb up a mountain when I want to? Like if I go to visit everybody at 𝗣cie𝗱𝗰𝗀𝘀 and want to climb up to the top of the mountain? Yep, I will. Will the regular person at 80 be able to climb up that mountain? No, they won't be able to do nothing. And it's like a travesty. We'll invest in retirement and put all this money away to save for retirement, but we don't invest in our bodies, which is the most important thing in retirement. So I'm investing in my body as well, and probably more so than even financially, because that's what's going to make the rest of my life. I want to be able to do things, and I want to be able to go run with the grandkids and play with them and do stuff. And if I decide I want to go, hiking, climbing, doing whatever, I can do it. If I decide I want to go do a powerlifting meet and squat more than anybody squatted at this age, yeah, I'm going to do it. I'm still the only person over 50 to deadlift over 800 pounds in a powerlifting meet. Ever.
So it's longevity, it's quality of life.
Yeah.
I heard a lot of family in there. You want to be there and then impact them. But you also
And
sounds
other
like
people.
It sounds like you still want to be strong, though, not just well-rounded and healthy. You can be well-rounded and healthy. Deadlifting 800 doesn't make you necessarily that well-rounded and healthy, right? You're several standard deviations outside the median, right?
Yeah.
So,
But
so
my
there's
diet's like impeccable. There's the things I eat, the way I act, everything I do is set up to be the most efficient possible as I'm doing it. So, I mean, when I eat good food. I eat almost very little processed food, very little. Like I'll go out to a restaurant, and that's where I'll get most of my processed food because they make it with stuff.
Yep.
But when I cook stuff at home, it's like super basic stuff, super high nutrient things. I'll eat, a pound of hamburger with chicken stock and rice and bell peppers and a little bit of spinach. And then I'll drink organic cranberry juice because it's high in iodine, and then orange juice to help your liver enzymes and stuff like that for food digestion and things like that. You're always doing things to help improve your digestion and stuff like that, because the better you can digest your food and the better that intake is. I eat a lot of eggs as well. The better your body's going to work. Period.
And I just got done. I did the American Open at the Arnold this past week, 2 weeks, and because I always kind of thought after, I really wanted to finish this competition up, and I started thinking I'm probably going to be done lifting, not lifting, but done trying to be a competitor, I guess. And I was battling my mind. What am I going to do next? Is that what I want to do? And I've kind of had it in my mind that once I reach a certain age, I'm not going to be competing, and everything kind of like changed after. And I was like, why is it whenever I'm turning 30 this year, and I'm like,
Oh, yeah.
what? Well, okay, yeah, I get it. But
Yeah,
I
you're
was
not
like,
going to pack it in.
why am I thinking that I can't be even stronger in my 30s than I was in my 20s? And I was like, why? That doesn't make sense to me. I was always been told, or I've always see people when they hit 30, they're just like, well, when you get 30, you're done. You can't do it. And I was like, well, I don't know. After that weekend, I was just like, I don't know if that's true or not. And I think I'm just going to keep going with it and see how long, I can drag this competition stuff out. And can I keep hitting PRs in my 30s? That's kind of where I was dead thinking about that for a whole week. And it's just funny that you guys bring it up, because I was literally just like, there's no way I can't get stronger in my 30s.
Correct.
And that's
You
just
get a lot stronger in your 30s.
Yeah, it should be easier.
Like way stronger.
That's
Even
kinda
easier than
what
you can in your 20s.
That's what I was thinking,
Yeah.
I was like, well, I'm Olympic lifting. Am I going to have the mobility? Well, I was like, well, I probably should work on mobility then if I'm worried about mobility in my 30s.
And that's the thing, though. As we get older, our connective tissue gets stronger. And it just gets less elastic.
Okay.
It doesn't stretch as much. So we have the mobility issue as we get older, because you see the old man strength where the guy comes in and picks up something he's not supposed to pick up, puts it down and walks away. He's a little sore the next day, but he can handle the weight. It's because his connective tissue is super strong. But he's not as flexible or as limber as he was, because that connective tissue is really strong. So you have to work more on mobility as you get older, just to stay, flexible. But if you do that, you're going to keep a lot of your range of motion. It's just something you have to work on.
Right.
So where it was just kind of like you walked down the street and you were that way in your teens and 20s, in your mid 30s, early 40s, you start having to, because I could do the splits in both directions up till I was about 43. And then it just was very uncomfortable to even try. But so my goal is to work my way back to doing that in the next 3 to 5 years.
Awesome. I was reading about, whenever we have people on, we want to do research. And I was reading about this title to this article. It said that your failed bench press attempt saved your life.
Yes.
You know what I'm talking about there? Mm-hmm. You want to provide some insights and shed some light on that?
Yeah, so October 12th, 2022, I was getting ready for the Masters World's Strongest Man, and I was getting ready. I was bringing it. And I was doing a speed bench press with 425, and my thumbs were around the bar. And it just popped out of my hands.
Wow.
From the top, and came down on my chest and hit me in the chest. And that wasn't fun. It hurt quite a bit, but I was having problems catching my breath. I was kind of wheezing a little bit. And Callie just looks at me and she goes, we need to go get film on that right now. I want to make sure you don't have any internal bleeding. So we get to the hospital and they're like, you got a hematoma and some bruised ribs. You got a little bit of cartilage damage, but you're going to be fine. He goes, but we did have an incidental finding. And it's like, what's that? And her face was just like, not real happy. She was very concerned. And turns out I had a renal cell carcinoma tumor about the third of the size of my kidney in the blood filtering side of my kidney.
Whoa.
Yeah. So, yeah, we went through a lot of tests, got through like everything. And then they determined it was a renal cell carcinoma at that point and took my kidney January 3rd, 2023.
So you're down one.
So I'm down one. I have one kidney.
Wow.
So no ibuprofen, no aspirin, no nothing. But I do cold plunges now instead, which I wish I would have found that. And hindsight's 2020, and I'm going to tell all the kids this: throw the ibuprofen away. It's horrible for your kidneys. It's bad for your body. It is god awful. Go take a 3-minute ice bath. It does the same thing, and it's way healthier for you. And you actually feel a lot better when you're done. I mean, it's just that simple. Just go take a 3-minute ice bath.
In a pinch, 3 to 5 minute cold shower, not nearly as helpful, or what?
If you can get the water down to like 50 degrees, yeah.
Yeah. Gotcha.
But it's going to be hard to get the water in the shower down to 50 degrees unless you're...
without the ice. Yeah. My goodness. We had one of the ladies out of my gym. She trained and then she coached and played college softball. She runs her own gym in Cincinnati. Awesome lady. Mm-hmm. She trained with the Shane and Laura Sweat for a while, if you know them. Mm-hmm. And her name's Mimi Mahan. We've had her on the show, and her mom was in need of a kidney, or she was going to die. Mm-hmm. And she couldn't give it to her because they weren't an exact match, but she's like, I want to give a kidney. And so she gave to someone else, and someone else gave one to her mother. So it was like a little triad there, and saved her mom's life. And now she's a spokesperson for the donor games, and she lifts. She was with Mark Valenti's gym for a while. Likes to do a lot of Highland games, and she's like, I'm gonna let my I'm gonna heal, let all my insides heal, and then get back to lifting. And no kidney, and she's still awesomely strong. Does plenty of conditioning, eats well, and it's a major organ, and she's down one, and she's doing just fine. And people would say, well, I can't do this or that because I'm down a kidney. No.
No. Look, you're going to put more stress on your body because you have one. But if you eliminate things that will stress your kidney, drinking alcohol, right out the window.
Right.
Like I said, ibuprofen, aspirin, just anything like that your body has to work really hard to filter. That's out the window. It's done. It's a non-thing. And then never get dehydrated. You got to drink a lot of water. So you stay on top of that, and you stay on top of your sodium intake, and you make sure you never get dehydrated. And there's no reason why you can't do exactly what you were doing before. You just have to cut unnecessary things out and be more disciplined on what the inside of your body needs. I go get blood tests every 3 months.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
To make sure nothing's changed. And every time it's all been the same every time I go. So, it's just stay on top of it.
We talk about, if you're in the business world, we'll ask what the KPI is for this project. What's your key performance indicator? What are the inputs that lead up to this output that you're looking for? And all I hear out of you, Nick, is constant discipline with the food, the regulating eating whole foods, constantly training, constantly doing the little things for your mobility or the cold plunges. And I like bourbon, I like booze, but you're making a choice. Hey, maybe you said, well, I can still drink alcohol, but I can't lift and compete and do these fun things anymore because something has to go, right? You have to give up some of those things that you like for the one or two things that you love. And if you don't love anything that strong, then it's easy to have a whole bunch of likes. But if you let your brain make the decision, hey, if I want this, it'll simply give you it'll provide that path with all the required discipline to get there. So you just input 𝗀𝗲𝗿𝘃𝗀𝗀 phrase, discipline equals freedom. So Nick is more disciplined. Consequently, he has the freedoms that most people don't, especially at his age. That's outstanding.
Yeah.
One of the questions I have here, because, when you're lifting, it's super cool, right? But you also might be lifting, hey man, I'm gonna beat Lucas here today. There's a right, or hey, this girl walked in, or I'm 25. What the fuck does Nick best know? His old man, thinks he knows his shit. But you also wrote in there, and we're all guilty of it because you have to learn the hard way. The difference between going hard and being uncomfortable, and then going stupid and getting hurt. Like you could be doing the right things and still get hurt.
Correct.
But you could also take unnecessary risk, and when it increases your chance of getting hurt super easily. And you're dealing with egos and guys or girls, whatever, and environments. How do you manage that with other folks that you coach and work with, the difference between going harder and being intense and going stupid.
Well, it's pretty simple. It's like, okay, you tell them, you teach them, you show them, and then they'll kind of step out of line and do it. And then they get hurt a little bit. They're like, oh, what happened? Yes, didn't I say not to do that? Because this would happen. Yes. Right. Okay. So how many times do we have to do this till you learn when I tell you not to do that, that means don't do that? Should we do it again? Or how about 2 or 3 more times?
Yeah.
How many times do you want to have month to 8-week setbacks to slow your progress from getting to where your end goal is? So which is really your end goal? To show off or to get your work put in?
Yeah.
I mean, it's so your end goal is to reach this over here, not to impress this person over here or your ego. So put your ego to the side and do what you're supposed to be doing. But usually they'll get hurt like once or twice doing that. And then they're like, okay, well, I told you not to do that. And I had a friend that would always go out and I was like we'd work up to a 900-pound yoke. And the comfortable weight for him was probably 700 to train with. And for whatever reason, he used to have to just keep coming out there and trying to do the 900-pound yoke and keep up with me. And I'm just like, dude, you realize I'm pretty good at this. This is one of the best in the world at this event. So you don't have to keep up with me. This is your training weight over here. No, I want to do it. He'd pick it up, he'd carry it 10 feet, and he'd mess up his upper back, and he'd be done for like 2-3 months to where he couldn't train deadlifts very heavy, couldn't squat very heavy. And then he'd be miserable the whole time. I'm like, okay. And then again, he's doing it again. And we're telling him again. And it's like, he ran straight into the wall again. It's like, dude, come on. So about after the second time, he figured it out and he started listening. So kids, listen. We know what we're talking about for a reason. So when we tell you, don't touch the stove, it's hot.
Yeah.
Don't touch the stove.
I touched the stove all the time growing up. I was an idiot. I was doing everything stupid.
Yeah.
I lost my license 30 days after having gotten my license. It was already taken away. 30 days.
Yeah. Well, we've all done things like that, but that's why we could sit there and go, "Hey, don't do that, dude.
Don't do that.
It's not going to turn out well for you."
They're like, "Well, you did, Jim."
I caught myself doing it today.
Yeah.
Caught myself doing it today. I took 595, tripled it in the squat, and I've been working on my hip mobility, so now I can finally punch down into the hole again. I'm like, yay, this feels pretty good. And I did 595, and then I threw like another 70 pounds on. I go, okay, I'm going to take this up over 300 kilos. I'll go hit this. And then I'm like, I got deadlifts after that for reps. And I'm like, you know what? Why am I doing it? And I stopped myself and I'm like, can I do it? Yes. Am I going to be able to pull very good? No. The goal today was to hit the deadlifts for reps today, not to do that. I'll take and I had already gone 20 pounds heavier than I went the week prior. So I'm like, okay, cool. We're done here. I'm going to do my progressions. I'm going to walk over here and pull 500 for 16. So I walked over and pulled 500 for 16.
Discipline.
So I caught myself doing it though. I was like, yes, let's go. I feel good. And just.
I catch myself all the time, especially with, wanting to add more weight on snatch. I don't have to go up to a certain weight. I'm just like, I'm feeling good. I need to see what I can do while I'm feeling good. Sometimes I have to tell myself no.
Yeah, and as you get older and you go through that more times, you start going, all right, well, now you catch yourself a lot more as you get older. So I have a goal. I want to squat 800 again in a powerlifting meet by the end of this year. So
my favorite thing is we're doing sets of 5, sets of 8 in class with high school kids, and I got a kid that has like 95 pounds on the bar and he's barely getting to. I'm like, dude. Or a kid that has 185 on the bar. It doesn't really matter the weight, but it's like, how many reps did I tell you to do? And how many did you get? 2. Like, dude, you just
We're not maxing out today, buddy.
you just waste like, if I don't have, because there's times of the year where I don't have specific numbers for them. We'll do it APRE or reps in reserve. We'll do it that way,
Right.
and then I'll give them percentages. If I don't, for me as a coach, I've got to be on the ball with like watching, making rounds and seeing who's doing what, making sure I know you can do that, so let's go ahead and do that. But sometimes these kids, they put too much, and sometimes it's too little, and it's like, man, you gotta let's not ruin our day by
Correct.
maxing out.
And eventually you teach people how to read their body. It's like, look, I want to teach you how to read your body, because if I can teach you how to read your body, you're going to know where that line is far better than I will. I can see things, but you can feel it better than I can see it. Yeah. So once they learn how to read their body, be like, you just look at somebody and be like, how you feel after that? Not too bad. I'm like, could you got another one or two? Yeah. They go, then you probably should have got at least one more.
Yeah.
They're like, oh yeah. I'm like, okay, well, next time we do this, we're gonna get that one more. Okay, got it.
That's the tough thing about where I'm at, working with high school kids every day is.
Yeah.
So I get more kids that's never lifted more often than I get kids that have. Where I'm at, they're training junior high. It's tough to get junior high kids in, get them young, adapting well, but most of the kids are learning how to lift, and they don't even know how to push their hardest. They really don't, and you have to. For me, I have to put them in a position where they have to find out how hard they can. How I do that, it just kind of depends on the kid and where we're at in the year and how well they, we've worked up to this point. But getting them, teaching them to understand how to feel. What it needs to feel like compared to what you think it feels like are two different things.
Oh yeah, no, 100%. Most people do not, when they're first starting training, they don't understand you're not doing anything but training your neurological system to handle weight that you're already capable of handling. You're not getting stronger. This is how strong you were. At about 4 months into training, that's how strong they were walking around. They just know how to move now. From that point on is when the real work begins, because I got stronger so much faster. Like, no, you didn't. That's how strong you were. You just practiced the movements, got good at them. Now you're good at the movements. Now you got to start working on getting stronger, because we found out where your maximum strength level is walking around right now.
Right.
Yeah. Now we're going to start getting bigger and stronger. And this is going to be a much slower process than these first 4 months. And that's what people don't like to run into, but that's the reality of the situation. And if that was addressed more, people would probably understand it a lot more.
Yeah, and especially keeping kids consistent too. Because I'm lucky to get kids that take the class multiple years in a row. They're a lot of sports team, a lot of sports athletes and all that. They get in there and they can be consistent, but it's when you get kids that are in and out that they'll decide to start coming to football workouts last week, and everybody else is power cleaning, pretty decent weight, and they're moving well, and the one that hasn't been coming really sticks out because they just don't got the skills.
Right.
It's like, well, how do I get better at power cleaning? Well, my coach will teach you, and then you're gonna do it over and over and over and over, and they don't realize that they have to keep doing even the freaking squat. I'm stronger now, I must be good at squats. Well, no. You're not. You're not actually good at squats yet. You're kind of good at moving,
Yeah, you find an example of something that they are good at, because, the kids with social media and typing and just other things.
Yeah.
You got really good at this, right? Yeah. How long did it take you? Oh, it took forever, because I was doing this programming and I was messing with this keyboard and I was doing this and I was doing that. And you're just like, so that took you a while. Yeah.
Yeah.
Same applies here.
Video games.
Yeah.
Kids can relate to video games. Hey, how long did it take you to beat this level? How long did it take you to understand Madden? The tricks. They understand that really, really well. So that's one of my go-tos is relating to video games or some way and somehow. So
yeah, I do that with Call of Duty. The kids would come into the gun range to shoot, because I also work at a gun range for fun.
Okay.
And it's just a blast. And the kids will come in and I'll run through shooting machine guns and stuff. And I'm like, all right, you play Call of Duty? Yeah. Well, you're gonna shoot at least 4 of these guns that you shoot in Call of Duty today. All right. And then they're holding it, and I got a hold of them, making sure they're safe. And they shoot them, and they're like, oh my God, this is so much different. I go, yeah, it just doesn't. The vibration's a little bit more intense.
A little different. A little bit kick there.
Yeah. And the machine gun, when you pull the trigger, it doesn't go right where the X is. There's a lot more involved in keeping it, on target. And they're just like, oh, wow. I'm like, well, how do I do that? I'm like, you show them how to stand and hold their feet and hold the firearm better. But it's neat to see the relationship of what they did on the video game and then come in and show them what they can do in real life.
For sure. It was Matt Wedding I was listening to, and someone was asking, how long does it take to get good at lifting? He goes, yeah, beginner level lifter, that takes 10 years to get to maybe intermediate. And people are like, what? I go, yeah. Like those guys talking about Call of Duty, these are kids that are in Lucas's high school. They're 16 years old. They've been playing video games since they were 6, 7, 8 years old.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so to be like, whether you're a CrossFitter or gymnast or whatever, to be like intermediate, not elite or advanced or elite, that's 10 plus years. It's 10 plus years of doing the basics. And once you get your head wrapped around that, and you're not trying to go from a 200-pound squat to an 800-pound squat in 24 months, you're like, well, shoot, hey, we're going to need a 5 to 8 year plan here and start dialing in a lot of things over that time frame. And we're going to teach you a whole bunch of stuff, and you have to learn all those things, and you're not going to be able to do it. Until then, it's a bit humbling, because then you have to start changing your life around and actually making a commitment. Man,
Nick, it took me 11 years to squat 800 pounds.
Right?
From high school, I started powerlifting in 1985. I started lifting in 84, and I started powerlifting in 85 and did my first powerlifting meet in 85. And in 1996, I squatted 800 pounds in a powerlifting meet.
There you have it. See?
So 11 years for me.
That's the deal. Nick, man, I had a great time today so far.
Thanks.
When you train, what do you listen to?
I like thrash. I like metal. Primus, Rush.
All right.
Five Finger Death Punch.
Classics.
Yeah, stuff like that.
Okay.
But I don't turn it on real loud. It's on, it's in the background, but
Right.
I kind of, if it's there, it's great. If it's not there, it's great. I always try to make sure that I'm able to get my head into that frame of mind all by myself, without music, without other. If I can't get myself into the right frame of mind to pick up something ungodly heavy, then I shouldn't have to rely on music or anything else to get my head there. It's.
I was listening to Zydrunas.
Zydrunas. Yes.
Yeah, it's hard to say. And
𝗪𝗪.
right, he wouldn't listen to anything when he's training. He likes to be on stage so that when people are cheering or there's music, then that outside stimulus carries over. But in his training, he doesn't want any of that. Well, just like you said, it'll either be quiet or they're just talking. But he wants to be able to be internally driven so that he can then perform, with his own head.
Yeah.
You and your wife, bucket list adventure you guys haven't done yet, but you guys would like to go see.
Probably Rome.
Okay. Fun.
Yeah, I'd like to go to Rome and go all through Italy.
Favorite sports movie?
For the love of the game.
Okay. Baseball. Right. Favorite sport to watch?
Ooh, man. That's going to be a toss-up between football and strongman.
Nice. How about an athlete or two that you like? I mean, I love watching this athlete perform in any sport or whatever. It could be current. It could be current or prior.
I love watching Mitchell Hooper. The guy is just off the chart. I mean, I've never seen a guy that talented on everything who the moment he does an event, the next time he's expert at it, or even just picks it up right away. I mean, it's absolutely. I used to think 𝗤𝗏𝗀𝗀𝗀 was probably, and Brian, those two were probably the most analytical and like the smartest of the strongmen as far as figuring out how to do events. And I'm going to say Mitchell's right there now, but his recovery, the way he just does everything, it's just, he's dumped the whole sport right on its head. I mean, he truly has. I mean, you have to figure out how you're going to beat him because there's nothing he's going to be under top 3 at.
How about, you got a good, favorite book for us?
Sun Tzu, The Art of War.
That's a good one. Love it. How about, this could be fictional or non-fiction, but a favorite superhero or villain, or a superhero and a villain. Different people.
Superhero is hard to pick. Jeez. I like the Hulk. But I like the Gray Hulk. I like the 𝗀𝗲𝗃𝗀𝗀 Hulk.
Okay.
That was kind of cool, especially like when Todd McFarlane did all the artwork when he was Gray Hulk. That was pretty cool. Villain, probably the most interesting villains like the Joker. When you really truly get into that character, he's not a nice guy.
No.
So but he makes the good guy. He makes Batman. So
right. I always like to point out Hannibal Lecter is probably one of my favorite villains.
Yes,
right?
Very good villain, but yeah, he's kind of out there.
Right.
Well, I'm going to point out mine now since Palpatine, Lord Sidious, Star Wars is my favorite one.
Yeah.
We don't got to get into politics, but the way he plays the politic game is fascinating to watch. It's just throwing it out there.
Yeah,
Genius.
He managed to get control of the Senate.
Genius.
Right? The Imperial Senate, yep.
You had a favorite quote or not so much?
Throw it really, really hard or lift really, really hard. That way. That was John Powell.
Okay.
The discus thrower. I was at Stanford on the field, and 𝗫𝗏𝗃𝗀𝗀𝗀 was throwing the discus, and this other kid walks up to him and goes, he goes, man, you were amazing in the Olympics. How did you throw it that far? He goes, they throw it really, really hard that way. And so I was like, I'm stealing that.
Perfect.
So somebody's like, how do you lift so much? I go, I push really hard that way.
It sounds like some of the cues I'll give some of my kids. If they're got good technique, good form, they look good.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like power clean, and there's, I'll just tell them. They'll ask me, "What do I need to fix?" I'm like, "Just lift it faster."
Yeah.
Lift it faster.
Just go faster.
Just go faster. Yeah. Do better.
Yes.
Do better. Yeah. Eddie and Obrist really hate each other, or is it all for show?
Yeah, that was all that stuff. That was good acting for both of them.
Yeah.
Notice what's behind me, right?
Yeah. Yes. The
honorary Hall thing.
Yes, sir. That's awesome. Nick, where can people that want to reach out and support you, follow you?
Still got this here too.
Oh wow!
From the TV show.
Man, the thing about Strongman, they do have some of the coolest toys and they have the coolest awards.
Yeah.
And memorabilia. It's sweet. It's just awesome stuff.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. You win something when you're lifting, instead of getting a trophy, you get a weapon to.
A weapon kill people.
Yeah.
It's kind of cool. Is that the inspiration behind some of your awards?
Yeah, I'm like, hey, if I'm giving out Strongman awards, that I was state chair for Strongman Corps for a number of years. I'm like, all right, well, we're doing battle axes. We're doing big engraved swords, and we had I-beams that were custom made with kettlebells and stuff. I'm like, this is fun. And they're like, well, why are you doing this? I said, I guess because I like it.
Yeah, exactly.
I guess because it's neat for me, and it's my show, so it's my soccer ball, so that's why we're playing it.
Yeah, exactly.
You gave out some really nice knives a couple years ago.
Yeah, a lot of knives.
I was like, dang, I would love to get third to get one of these knives at least.
One year we had 4 strongman contests at my gym, and I made it a series, and you accumulated points over the season. It was a four-part series, and at the end they had like real medieval battle axes that were engraved with their names on it, and they were weapons that could really, they weren't just fake wood, they could really kill people. And I'm like,
Yeah.
so the best woman and male that does my 4 events and has the most points, here's your reward, just because I like it and it's cool. And they're like, all right. So people are just signing up just to get this cool award because it's neat.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy how that works.
Yep.
But it's neat because you get things that are just not the traditional norm, and it makes it pretty special actually in the end. So,
where can people find you online?
They can find me 𝗦𝗶𝗱𝗀𝗀𝗀 on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube. I'm probably forgetting something, but all those sites. Mm-hmm.
And then X, Twitter. There you go.
Yeah, X. Yes, X.
There you go. Man, Nick, great time today. Appreciate
pleasure.
it.
Thanks, Tim. Lucas.
Shout out 𝗀𝗲𝗃𝗀𝗀. And for those that are playing along at home, you guys know that the book released in November, and
Sweet.
now the planner came out. So how do you manage your accountability and your discipline? And if you want to do, there's the do-it-yourself method, so here's a product for that, or you want to reach out to us. And how do you do that? info@athlete-builder.com. So another great time with an awesome athlete being very generous with his time and effort and knowledge and impact. And that's the name of the game of what we're trying to do here. And Nick, you really made an impact today. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it, guys. Thanks for having me on. And to everybody out there, go out and be the best you can be. Be the best you. You don't have to be the best person. Just be the best you.
That's right. 100%. Appreciate it, guys.
Thanks, Nick.
Thanks, guys. Thank you.